Hey everyone, I'm your host Cadence, and welcome back to another episode of Project Honesty, a podcast designed for young adults, by a young adult, to gain brutally honest, friend-like advice, as well as provide a platform for young adults to form opinions, color outside of the lines, take deep dives into current events, and most importantly, have fun. This is Project Honesty, navigating reality with real conversations and diverse opinions. Sorry if my voice is a little bit raspy today. I have a little bit of a cough coming in. It's nothing too major. If you haven't already, go listen to last week's episode called Unfiltered Friends, where I discuss the importance of platonic male friendships. You can find that episode on Spotify at Project Honesty or on YouTube at Project_Honesty. And like I always tell y'all, go follow the Instagram, which is Project_Honesty24, which is where I announce all the topics. Today's topic is beauty standards and sexualization of women and girls in media. Some of the really important reasons why I wanted to talk about this is, one, I'm a woman. I'm also a woman who is a social media user and consumer. And growing up, I felt a lot of pressure to conform to societal expectations and beauty standards due to not only social media, but to people in my direct environment. And sometimes I still feel those pressures, especially from social media. And I wanted to discuss the mental health effects that social media takes on countless amounts of women. A lot of women suffer negatively because of these standards, and I did want to talk about that because it is important to me. Another reason why I wanted to discuss this topic is that little girls should not grow up not loving themselves because of social media and societal pressures. That is something that is kind of become normalized within the last 10 years, is little girls being exposed to social media, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, and just the negative effects on their self-image. I also want to discuss how sexualization from corporations and media impact childhood as a girl, and what that's like from a girl's perspective, especially since I'm a little bit older now, and just the overall mental and physical impacts that beauty standards and over-sexualization within the media have on women and girls. So what we're going to be going over today is we're going to discuss a brief history of beauty standards. We're going to go over how media perpetuates unhealthy beauty standards. And then I'm going to go into a little bit of a personal experience about the effects that unhealthy beauty standards in media has on girls who are young. I also am going to discuss how beauty standards can sexualize women and girls, not just in media, but just in general. And then the last part is I'm going to go over why it is unacceptable to sexualize girls from a young age, and how a certain culture is promoted through media sexualization and the problems with that type of social media culture. So starting off with the history of beauty standards, they have existed since ancient Egypt, so like 1000 BCE. Since ancient Egypt, there has been a revolving door of beauty standards, from makeup to body size to clothes to attitudes, and there's always been societal standards that women are expected to meet to be called a woman. It has become somewhat normal for these expectations to be there, and these standards have influenced and continue to influence societal attitudes towards women and attitudes about women and how we are viewed in the media and just in general. The introduction of social media, so it's a fairly new thing, social media, within like the last few decades has really been advancing and developing. With beauty standards and the introduction of social media within the last few decades, it made it so that you can clearly see who fits these standards or follows these standards and who doesn't. Social media has shown us the trends in fashion and the beauty industry, and social media is definitely an influencing factor because it gives companies and corporations the opportunity to directly connect with their audience. And social media has helped standards and expectations spread faster and have them more clearly outlined, because a lot of people are using social media, and people that are young are using social media. And so when you have a societal expectation outlined on social media, and it doesn't have to be through a specific person, it can be through something like a trend, those beauty standards are spreading like wildfires. I'm going to get into some examples of that right now. So some of the pros of using social media and beauty standards is product marketing became easier. Again, it gave the corporations direct contact with their consumers and gave them the ability basically to connect with their consumer on a one-to-one basis. Communication, again, was enhanced, and there was sort of this community built. I notice a lot in social media that beauty standards are recognized for either being healthy or unhealthy. Today, you're going to hear me focus a lot about the unhealthy aspects because, frankly, I don't like beauty standards, and I'm going to talk about why I don't like them. Social media has a lot of cons when it comes to beauty standards and the perpetuation of unhealthy beauty standards. An example of this is in the 90s to early 2000s, where being anorexic was a trend, described by a company called Science of People as heroin chic. This disordered and unhealthy way of being was seen as healthy and normal and beautiful, and became somewhat of a standard for other women to look up to and embody. And so on social media, there's been a lot of beauty standards being normalized on those platforms in an unhealthy and damaging way that fosters dangerous behavior. And it's becoming even more dangerous because with social media being so popular, girls as young as 7 or 8 are using social media. When it comes to statistics for teen girls, so girls ranging from 13 to 17, 73% of teen girls use TikTok and 69% use Instagram. That is compared to boys that are only around 40, 50, 60% of those same statistics. One of the biggest problems with unhealthy beauty standards being perpetuated on the internet is it impacts how these young girls, so think 7, 8, 9, 10, up to 17-year-old girls, think about themselves. It destroys this positive self-image that should be fostered within every single girl, and it is becoming a real problem. So some of the ways that social media has perpetuated unhealthy and unrealistic beauty standards is it promotes eating disorders to fit the mold of expectations set by Instagram models, and it's unrealistic. The expectations now of having a thigh gap or a flat stomach or a defined jawline with thin arms but a big butt and big boobs is unachievable for most women. And in more recent years, it's become more of a problem with platforms like Photoshop, AI, and filters like Facetune, because it's given people the ability to artificially create these expectations in photos. So they're altering their natural appearance to make themselves more attractive. Now, that is not necessarily the biggest problem. Sure, you can use Facetune and you can use Photoshop, whatever, all power to you. You do that. But with young girls who are very young, like 7 to 9, they don't know that these images have been altered. So when they are exposed to this media without knowing that it's fake, young girls don't know any better. So the process of that is they see this on social media, they see some Instagram model who is like promoting those like stupid stomach teas or whatever, and then they look at themselves in the mirror, and then they go back to social media and they see how women are loved and congratulated for their thinness and quote unquote beauty, and they compare themselves to that altered image, and then they compare that image to themselves. And in that process, they notice that they aren't perfectly meeting these expectations, whether that picture is altered or not. And so then they feel the need to alter their appearance to look exactly like the picture. Now, the result of this process has a lot of dangerous consequences. A lot of girls fall into unhealthy, damaging, and sometimes dangerous habits and behaviors, such as disordered eating or self-harm. 50% of teen girls struggle with dangerous weight control behaviors. That was taken from a study done in the UK. Another result of this comparing yourself to people on social media is the destruction of your self-esteem and self-image. You get feelings of unworthiness and unachievement, and you start to feel ugly and not beautiful enough because you're not fitting into this mold. Now, some of these young girls that are being influenced by these pictures turn into influencers themselves for their age group. An example of this is the Sephora 10-year-olds. Why is a 10-year-old wearing a full face of makeup to school? That makes no sense. And it's because they're being influenced by these adult expectations of beauty, and these children are feeling like they have to meet that expectation of beauty, even though they're not adults. Some other statistics and results of this process of comparing young girls to people on social media is that 69% of females aged 10 to 18 say that the social media models and celebrity influencers have influenced their body image and how they picture themselves at an ideal body weight. These girls, the majority of them, aged 10, keep in mind, 10 to 18 are looking at people online, women online, who may or may not have altered themselves, and they want to model that same behavior to hopefully look like that model. Another statistic is that by age 17, it is statistically proven that 89% of girls have or tried dieting. 89% by age 17. So by age 17, I'm not even 17 yet, and I will fully admit that I am still in my adolescence. And feeding into diet culture before you're even a developed adult is insane, and it's unhealthy. And an American study showed that 53% of girls by the age of 13 are unhappy with their body because of social media expectations and beauty standards within the media. Those statistics simply prove why it is dangerous to promote unrealistic expectations on social media, where it is available to girls that are vulnerable and young and underdeveloped, and it is dangerous. So I'm going to talk about a personal experience of mine of how beauty standards have had a negative impact on me and how those standards through social media really got to me. Growing up, I loved myself and I loved my body. I embraced who I was and my unique personality, and I really, really loved myself. Around the age of, I'd say 8 or 9, I started becoming more exposed to social media. I saw women who were impossibly skinny with no stretch marks, perfect hands, perfect hair, perfect skin, perfect nails, big butts, thigh gaps, and I started to compare myself to those women. I wanted to be skinny. I got to a point where I felt so undervalued because I wasn't as skinny as an Instagram model. I instead was known as the funny fat friend, basically, that if I were to put myself in a stereotype, it would be that one. And girls in my elementary school were extremely cruel, and they bullied me about my appearance because I didn't look like them. I have curves, my nails are undone most of the time, I have very curly hair, my cheeks are red, there's bumps on my skin, and I have a wide body type. And so I got extremely bullied for it. And wanting to be liked and not just known as the fat, funny friend, I tried to fit in by wearing trendy clothes, and I would do my hair a certain way. I remember that I would always want to straighten my hair because I thought that straightening my hair was more beautiful than wearing it natural and curly. After trying all of these stupid things, I just felt like it was never enough. By 6th grade, I was extremely depressed and I felt very unworthy. I would feed into diet culture, and I tried that for a little bit, and it resulted in disordered eating habits for many years, and I still struggle with those eating habits. And it got so severe that there was a point where I felt like I should not have been alive because of many factors, including the way that I looked. I was only 12 when I felt like that. As a 12-year-old girl, I felt so unworthy because I wasn't skinny. That is all because of my exposure to social media and bullying because I didn't look like the other girls. Since then, I've gone to therapy, I've experienced spiritual healing and connected with my spirituality as a way of holistically connecting my body with the earth. So I've visited psychics and Reikis and done tarot, and that was something that really, really helped me fall back in love with myself. I developed an appreciation for what my body does for me. I can do incredible things with my body, and I finally realized that, and it was so, so amazing to just fall back in love with myself and my body and just heal the hole that was created in my heart, in my mind, by people and by media. And I also started practicing self-care and self-affirmation. And so, yes, I may be fat. I have stretch marks and uneven skin. I have thick, curly, dark hair. I have thighs that touch. I have arms and a belly that jiggle. I have bright red, uneven cheeks. But that doesn't make me any less beautiful or any less worthy. I still deserve love. I still deserve to be appreciated and respected. And I am beautiful, and my life has purpose. The fact that I've had to reteach myself how to love me and my body at such a young age, because keep in mind, I'm basically 16. The fact that I've had to go through that since I was 12 is something that should never happen to any young girl. It is very, very mentally damaging to have to go through something like that. No 15-year-old should have to fall in love with herself again. That shouldn't have happened in the first place. But even though that happened, I have learned a lot from that experience, and I am very glad that I love myself again. Trust me, guys, when you love yourself, it makes your life a lot easier. So, that was a little bit about my story, and that is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about beauty standards on here and why I think it's so important to discuss the negative side effects of beauty standards is because I've been personally affected by it. Moving on, I want to further discuss how these standards sexualize women and girls, specifically young girls. So we just discussed the mental dangers from these standards, but I don't want to forget about the physical dangers of these standards. From a young age, and when you're little, you don't purchase your clothes, but as a young adult, I've noticed that women's clothing and even little girls' clothing is cut very small, very tight, and it is supposed to be revealing. Now, I added this into this episode because I saw a mom on TikTok. Now, I don't remember her username at all, but she pointed out, so she was buying something at Target for her little girl, and she noticed and pointed out how short the girl's toddler shorts were compared to the boys' version of the same shorts. She brought the girl's shorts over to the boys' shorts, and the girl's shorts were about, I would say, an inch and a half shorter. Why? There is a lot of whys to why these clothes are cut the way they are. So a company called Live Science wrote a great article. It is a little bit older, but it's called Marketing Sexiness. That found that almost a third of clothing made for little girls, so girls under the age of 10, I would say, was provocative and sexualized in a large-scale sales trend analysis. Some of the ways that I've noticed this just in my life, I have TikTok, I have Instagram. Some things that I see on TikTok have really raised a lot of questions for me. Some of them include, why is a 4-year-old girl on TikTok wearing a crop top and a mini skirt? Why is their mother allowing them to wear this? Why are female toddlers wearing bikinis? Why is a toddler wearing a bikini? It makes no sense. Girls' clothing is being cut tighter to accentuate certain body parts. These clothes and styles are further pushed onto young girls from influencers of the same age or older that are wearing provocative clothing and promoting it to young girls. Now, that is not saying that you shouldn't wear what makes you feel sexy and good and beautiful. I think I am so for women wearing what makes them feel sexy and beautiful and amazing about their body. But that applies to women. Young girls should not be trying to dress like a 19-year-old influencer. When I say young girls, I mean girls like 10 and under. Young girls are not grown-ass women. Grown women and older teens, so 15, maybe even 14, I guess, plus, wear these clothes and these tops and these bikinis and whatever, and it's appropriate. Why? Because they are informed about why these companies and corporations cut these clothes a certain way. Because these clothes mostly accentuate features for someone who has a fully formed female figure. And so, with these types of clothes being promoted to these young girls, it is sexualizing these girls unknowingly by trying to put them in clothes that aren't meant for them. A 4-year-old should not be wearing a crop top that looks like something a 19-year-old influencer would wear. That is not on the same level. The sexualization of young girls is a growing issue. Now, wear what you want. Again, I fully believe that women should be able to wear exactly what makes them feel great without judgment. But to put a sexy label on a young girl and her clothes is fully inappropriate. No little girl should be put in a vulnerable place, unknowingly, where it is possible for her to be sexualized. Unfortunately, the reality of this is that there are countless amounts of predators who use social media, especially if you are a parent posting public content of your 4-year-old, for say, wearing a bikini. Just know that there are predators out there that are going to use that social media content of your daughter. And then sometimes these people and these predators go to jail as a result. One of the cases that I've seen in the media a lot, now it doesn't really have to do anything with clothes, but cases like Ren Eleanor, a mom who posted sexually suggestive content of her daughter on social media, that is a problem. Little girls are innocent and shouldn't be placed in situations regarding their body that sexualizes them or damages their mental health. Especially with the parents now. I don't know what they're thinking. It's a lot of millennial parents. I'm sorry if you're a millennial listening to this, but this is how I feel. You should not be putting your 4-year-old in a bikini that is modeled after what a 19-year-old grown-ass woman influencer is gonna wear. Okay? Just putting that out there. And again, corporations continue to sexualize the female body, and females are seen as objects. And we're not sex objects. We're people who deserve to be treated fairly for more than our bodies and be appreciated for our minds. It is damaging when young girls are exposed to this kind of media. It is damaging for them to be sexualized starting at a young age, like 4 years old. And so this episode is to really bring awareness to that issue of why beauty standards and sexualization of women is a problem. It's unhealthy, and it shouldn't continue. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Project Honesty. You can find Project Honesty on Spotify at Project Honesty or on YouTube at Project_Honesty. And to keep up to date with new episodes, you can head over to Project Honesty's Instagram, which is at project_honesty24. We also have a TikTok, which is project.honesty. And to help spread this podcast everywhere, tell a friend or share with family about Project Honesty. And you can direct them over to the Instagram, the TikTok, the Spotify, or the YouTube to help them learn more. Remember to subscribe, follow, and click the bell icon for updates when I post. And remember, the more listeners, the bigger the family.